Welcome everybody. This is gonna be another unboxing video. This time we're gonna take a look at this Basher BZ-888 1/8 scale electric racing buggy from Hobbyking. First take a look at the box. A few datas here. This is the almost ready to run version, so it doesn't contain a transmitter radio. Very nice color box. Take a look inside. So here's the buggy. It is well packed. Let's see what we've got. A few stickers and the user manual, and of course the wing and stickers for the wing. And here's the buggy. So let's see the car. First thing I noticed that the body is clipped onto the car, and it seems like it's not fit very well. It doesn't fit very well. It could have been a little bigger body, and there is also, it hasn't got a side guard, and I can imagine that the dust and sand will go in through these holes, so our buggy can get a bit dirty. I don't really understand why is that. We'll take a look inside the buggy. Okay, so the car itself. First of all, the layout. It's a two cell LiPo battery, fits here in series. So this way it's a 4S LiPo, and the ESC is, I think it's a Hobbyking rebrand. It's a 100 amp ESC, like on the Sabertooth Truggy, and the motor is very similar, which is in the Truggy, but I think it's a little bit shorter. Let's see. It's about 65, and the width is 36, so yeah, it's a little shorter than the Sabertooth's motor, but I think maybe it's enough for this little buggy. It's much more lighter than the Truggy, by the way, so I think it has to be enough, but we will see when we try this buggy outdoor. Let's go to other things. The damping is better than the Sabertooth's. Sabertooth's bottom out's very easy, and this is way better. I've prepared a battery here, so we can try the buggy's shocks, the damping. I think it will be fine. This time we only use one strap. It will be enough for our test. So let's see the damping how performs. You can see that the front of the buggy is much more down than the rear end, so it definitely needs some adjusting. The back, the rear end of the buggy is much more higher, as you can see. So maybe we will lower a little bit the rear end and raise the front. Okay. Now it's a little bit better. Let's see the camber and toe-in settings. At the back it's almost good, but I don't see any angle in the rear wheels. Maybe you should reuse this a little bit, and then the wheels will have a little angle what they should have. At the front it's definitely very bad settings out of the box. As you can see, the front wheels are turning this way, and they should looks like this, and also the camber settings have to be like this, so definitely it needs some adjustment. So let's see what we can do about it. It's a 7 size wrench, and I think I don't see what direction should I use it. So it's about 14 millimeters. Let's start to one direction. Let's start with one direction and see how we adjust it. Okay, it's getting bigger, so I have to do it in the other direction. So the camber and toe-in settings looks a lot more better now. Okay. Let's look the underside of the buggy. As you can see, it's all hex screws all over the buggy. I think that's an improvement over the saber-tooth Buggy, because the saber-tooth screws are all Phillips head, all but a few. So I think it's much more better working with these hex screws than the Phillips ones. Okay, the oil in the shocks are, I think it's quite good. The droop settings are just fine. Maybe we can measure both sides just to make sure it's the same on both sides. So it's 105 millimeters, and this is also 105 millimeters. So actually it's set just the same. Let's measure it at the rear end. It's 120 millimeters. The rear end on the right side, it's a little bit more droop than the left side, so we should adjust it. We can do it We can do it by this little screw here. I hope you can see. So if you are screwing it counterclockwise, the droop will be more, as you can see, and if you screw it clockwise, the droop will decrease. Let's measure it again. Okay, maybe this was a little bit too much, so I screw it a little clockwise, but just a quarter turn. Let's see. Okay, it looks fine. So now the droop settings are same on both sides, at the rear end and both sides at the front end. Okay, let's measure this distance between the shock cup and the thread. Okay, it's a little bit more, just to make sure it's the same on both sides. Okay. Let's try to look at the gear mesh. Okay, if you try to move a little bit the spool gear, and you hear a little tic-tac, then it means there is some space between the gears and it's okay. If you don't hear anything, then you may have to move the motor a little bit further from the spool gear to make a little distance between the gears, because if there is if the gears are too tight, then it will result in some bad things. In the worst case, your motor will burn or your ESC will burn. And I also advise you to make sure that the pinion gear is tightened to the motor shaft, because as I experienced with the Truggy, the Sabertooth Truggy, it come loose after a few packs of battery. Unfortunately, you haven't got any space to tighten the pinion gear if the motor is mounted. So if you want to tighten the pinion gear, first you have to remove the motor, and the simplest way to do it is unscrew these two screws, and that way you can lift the motor up, and from the inner side you can tighten the pinion gear. It's very important. Maybe you can apply some Loctite on it to make sure it won't come off easily, won't loosen up. It is very similar to the Sabertooth Truggy. The layout, the electronics, the shocks are the same. So these are good shocks, by the way, but for the Truggy they are not the best, because they are made for the buggies. So the size of the shocks are better for this buggy. If you want to make the proper adjustment of the shocks, you should check your ride height. So if you want to measure your ride height, you should drop the buggy from about 20-30 centimeters this way, and then you should measure the distance on the rear end and the distance on the front end. And for a 1/8 scale buggy, the good settings are around, let's say, 26 to 30 millimeters, and maybe a little bit higher at the rear end, but that's not necessary. So you can do the same settings on both rear and front. Just like the Truggy, at the front there are CVDs, which are very nice, and at the rear there are dog bones, but it's also nice. Before you go out and play, make sure you check the wheels if it's tight enough, because out of the box they have to be tightened, other way the wheel will come off. So before you go out and start to use the buggy, just make sure that every screw is tightened. Okay, so it won't come loose easy. And after each battery pack you should check the screws and tighten the ones which came loose, and maybe you can apply some thread lock on it. You don't want to tighten these screws very much, otherwise you will have a very slow and weak servo, as I experienced in the saber-tooth Truggy, the brushless Truggy. I tightened these screws very much and the servo almost cannot turn the wheel, so make sure that is tighten enough but not too much. Okay, so we haven't talked about the diffs yet, but I have to mention them because in the diffs there are no oils inside, only grease, which is nice, by the way, that at least there is grease in the diffs in an RTR vehicle, but if you want to use it, then you should put oil in the diffs. So if you put oil in the diffs, then it will definitely improve the driving characteristic and your experience of driving. So I advise you to fill oil in the diffs. For a good start, you should use around 5,000 CST at the front, maybe around 7,000 in the center, and 2-3,000 at the rear. Okay, let's see the tires. First of all, the compound seems to be medium to soft compound, but the inner sponge is very soft. So with this insert, your wheels going to balloon very much, and that's not really good. Okay, so that's for now. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you heard some useful things of this buggy, and next time we will try it on the track, or at least outside, some running tests. So this was the Basher BZ-888 1/8 scale brushless buggy from Hobbyking. Thank you for watching. Check out my other videos. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you. Goodbye.